I'll never forget the day my girlfriend, Sarah, betrayed me during the vacation I paid for. It still makes my blood boil just thinking about it. Out of nowhere, she sent me a text saying, "I met someone. I'm staying here." Can you believe that? After everything I'd done for her, planning this trip, covering all the expenses, trying to give her the best time of her life, she just throws it all away like it meant nothing. I didn't know what to say at first, so I replied, "Follow your heart." But trust me, I wasn't about to let her off easy. As soon as I sent that message, I called the airline and cancelled her return flight. Then I got on the phone with my credit card company and cut off her access to my account. She'd been using my card for extras during the trip, spa treatments, excursions, meals, whatever she wanted, but not anymore. Let's just say I wasn't feeling too generous after her little announcement. Not long after, my phone buzzed with another text from her. This one was frantic. How am I supposed to get home? I'm 30 years old, work in finance, and thought I knew a thing or two about people. Turns out, I had a lot to learn. Some folks just don't have any loyalty or shame, and Sarah proved that the hard way. She really thought she could have her cake and eat it too. Spoiler alert, she was dead wrong. This wasn't the first time something like this happened to me. My ex-wife pulled the same stunt years ago, which is why we're divorced now. Back then, I thought marriage was forever. I worked hard, provided for us, and trusted her completely. But she threw it all away when she cheated on me with some guy from her gym. That betrayal left me bitter and cautious about relationships. When Sarah came along, I thought maybe I'd finally found someone different. Someone worth trusting again. Boy, was I wrong. Sarah and I had been together for 2 years. She was 27, worked part-time at some boutique, and honestly wasn't the most ambitious person I'd ever met, but she was fun to be around, and we had good chemistry. Plus, I made decent money, so I didn't mind covering most of our expenses. She'd pitch in here and there, but let's face it, I was the breadwinner. For her birthday this year, I decided to surprise her with a trip to Panama. She'd been talking about wanting to go somewhere tropical, so I figured a week in paradise would be perfect. I found this amazing resort right on the beach, booked a suite with an ocean view, the whole 9 yards. It cost me around $6,000 total, but I wanted to make it special. When I told Sarah about the trip, she flipped. She started planning outfits and researching activities right away. I handled all the bookings and even added her as an authorized user on one of my credit cards so she could cover any extras while we were there. Spa treatments, excursions, whatever she wanted, I trusted her to use it responsibly. The plan was simple, a relaxing week in paradise, just the two of us, no distractions. I'd been working crazy hours lately and needed a break, and Sarah had been complaining that we never did anything exciting anymore. Seemed like the perfect solution. We flew out on a Monday morning, and things started off great. The resort was incredible, our room was perfect, and Sarah seemed genuinely happy. The first couple of days were picture perfect. We lounged by the pool, walked on the beach, had romantic dinners. Honestly, I was starting to feel pretty good about us. But by Wednesday, something felt off. Sarah was glued to her phone, even during meals. When I asked her about it, she brushed it off, saying she was just posting photos and staying in touch with friends back home. Fair enough, but it still seemed excessive. By Thursday, she was pushing to go ziplining while I wanted to stay at the resort and relax. I'd been looking forward to actually unwinding, but she insisted it would be fun. So, we compromised, she went with a group tour, and I spent the day at the spa. When she got back that evening, she was acting strange. Super energetic and talkative, but distant somehow. She kept checking her phone and smiling at messages. When I asked how the ziplining went, she gave me the basics but seemed distracted. Red flag number 1. Friday, things got worse. Sarah wanted to go into town for shopping and sightseeing again. I wasn't really interested in being touristy, but she seemed determined to go. This time she went alone while I stayed at the pool. She was gone for like 6 hours and came back with barely any purchases to show for it. That night at dinner, she was clearly somewhere else mentally, answering my questions with short responses and spending half the meal texting. When I called her out on it, she got defensive and said I was being controlling. We had our first real fight of the trip right there in the restaurant. Saturday was our last full day, and I was hoping we could salvage things. But Sarah announced she wanted to go parasailing with another TR group. At this point, I was annoyed but figured whatever. Let her do her activities and I'd enjoy the resort amenities. She left around noon, and I didn't hear from her all afternoon. No texts, no updates, nothing. I started getting worried around dinner time because she'd been gone for 7 hours. Tried calling, but it went straight to voicemail. Finally, around 9 p.m., I got a text from her. Said she'd met some people from the tour group, and they were having drinks in town. She'd be back late and not to wait up. I was irritated but figured she was just blowing off steam after our fight. Sunday morning, we were supposed to check out and head to the airport for our afternoon flight. I woke up alone in the room with no sign of Sarah. Most of her stuff was still there, but she wasn't. Tried calling and texting with no response. Noon came and went. Our checkout time passed. I was getting genuinely concerned something bad had happened to her. The front desk said they hadn't seen her since yesterday. Finally, around 3 p.m., I got a text that changed everything. Sarah said she'd met someone special and decided to extend her stay. She was sorry, but this was something she had to explore. She'd figure out her own way home when she was ready. I read that message about 10 times trying to process it. My girlfriend of 2 years had ditched me on the vacation I paid for to hook up with some random guy she'd met parasailing. The audacity was incredible. I called her immediately, but got voicemail. Left a message asking what the hell she was thinking and demanding she call me back. No response. Sent several texts asking for clarification and got nothing. That evening, I got one more text from her. Said she knew this was sudden, but she'd met someone who made her feel alive in a way she hadn't in years. She was staying in Panama to see where things went. Asked me not to contact her and said she'd be in touch when she figured things out. The disrespect was mind-blowing. Not only had she cheated on me, but she was rubbing it in my face and asking me to just accept it. Like, I should be happy for her finding love while destroying our relationship. I spent Sunday night in that hotel room alternating between rage and disbelief. Part of me wanted to track her down and confront her. Part of me wanted to just fly home and pretend this never happened, but mostly I was furious at being played like such a fool. Monday morning, I had to make a decision. Our original flights were that afternoon, but obviously Sarah wasn't making hers. I could change my ticket and fly home alone, or I could stay and try to work things out. But honestly, what was there to work out? She'd made her choice pretty clear. That's when I decided if Sarah wanted to follow her heart, I'd help her do it properly. First, I called my credit card company and removed Sarah as an authorized user. Told them she was no longer authorized to make any charges and to decline any future attempts. They handled it immediately and said any charges made after that point would be automatically denied. Then I called the airline and canceled Sarah's return ticket. Since it was booked under my name and credit card, they let me cancel without any issues. Being same-day cancellation, I lost most of the money. Only got about $50 back as a future travel credit. But if Sarah was starting a new life in Costa Rica, she wouldn't be needing that flight home anyway. I figured if she was serious about this new relationship, her new boyfriend could figure out how to get her home. I was done being her financial safety net. Then I packed up most of her belongings, checked out of the hotel, and took my original flight home. Left her stuff with the concierge and told them someone would collect them eventually. Kept some of her essentials with me since she'd obviously taken a few things when she left for her romantic adventure. The flight home was weird. I kept expecting to feel devastated or heartbroken, but mostly I just felt relieved, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Sarah had shown me exactly who she was, and honestly, I was grateful to find out sooner rather than later. I got home Monday night and tried to get back to my normal routine. Didn't tell anyone what happened right away because I was still processing it all. Figured I'd deal with the emotional fallout later and just focus on moving forward. Tuesday morning, I got the first panicked text from Sarah. She tried to pay for something, and her card was declined. Asked what was going on and why the card wasn't working. I ignored it. A few hours later, I got another text asking if there was a problem with the account. Said she really needed the card to work because she didn't have enough cash to cover her expenses. Still ignored it. That afternoon, the texts became more frantic. Sarah had apparently called the credit card company and found out she'd been removed as an authorized user. She was demanding I fix it immediately because she was stuck without access to money. By evening, she'd figured out her flight was cancelled, too. The texts were now full panic mode, asking how she was supposed to get home with no ticket and no credit card. Said this was cruel and I was being vindictive. Finally, around dinner time, she called me directly. I almost didn't answer, but I decided to hear what she had to say. She was crying and panicking, saying she couldn't afford to stay in Panama and didn't know how she was going to get home. I calmly explained that since she decided to start a new life with someone she'd just met, I figured she wouldn't need my financial support or travel arrangements anymore. I was just trying to help her fully commit to her choice. She started screaming about how I couldn't just abandon her in a foreign country without money. Said this was cruel and vindictive and I was being a terrible person. Asked how she was supposed to get home now. I told her that wasn't really my problem anymore. She'd made it clear our relationship was over when she decided to cheat on me with some stranger. If she wanted to come home, she'd have to figure it out herself, just like she'd figured out how to betray me. Sarah kept crying and begging me to help her. Said the guy she'd met had turned out to be a disappointment and she'd made a huge mistake. She just wanted to come home and work things out between us. Too little, too late, though. I told her she'd burned that bridge when she chose to cheat instead of having an adult conversation about our relationship problems. Actions have consequences, and these were hers. She hung up on me, but the texts kept coming for the next few days. Everything from apologies to threats to sob stories about being stuck and scared. I ignored them all. Not my circus, not my monkeys anymore. About 10 days later, I heard through mutual friends that Sarah had eventually made it home. Apparently, she'd had to call her parents and beg them to wire her money for a hotel and new flight. They were not happy about having to bail out their adult daughter from her own poor choices. Turns out her romantic adventure had fallen apart pretty quickly once reality set in. The guy she'd met was apparently some tourist who was just looking for a vacation fling, not a serious relationship. When Sarah started talking about staying permanently and needing financial help, he bailed immediately. So, she was stuck in Panama with no money, no flight, and no romantic prospect. She had to swallow her pride and call mommy and daddy to rescue her from the mess she'd created. The story she told people was that we'd broken up on vacation and I'd vindicatively left her stranded. Conveniently left out the part about cheating on me with some random guy she just met. Amazing how the narrative changed when she needed sympathy. Most of our friends saw right through it, though. They knew Sarah well enough to read between the lines. Plus, a few people had seen her social media posts from Panama and noticed she wasn't exactly heartbroken about our breakup until she needed help getting home. Sarah tried reaching out a few more times over the following weeks. Said she'd learned her lesson and wanted to try again. Promised things would be different and she'd never take me for granted again. Standard cheater apology stuff. I never responded to any of it. What was the point? She'd shown me exactly who she was when she thought she had a safety net. Now she wanted back in because her adventure didn't work out and she needed financial security again. A month later, I ran into her at a coffee shop downtown. She looked rough, like she hadn't been sleeping well. Tried to approach me and start a conversation, but I just paid for my drink and left. Nothing she could say would change what happened. I found out later she'd been struggling financially since we broke up. Turns out when you work part-time at a boutique and your boyfriend covers most of your expenses, losing that support system hits pretty hard. She'd had to move back in with her parents and pick up extra shifts just to make ends meet. Meanwhile, I was doing great. Used the money I would have spent on Sarah to take a solo trip to China, an amazing experience and way better than dealing with relationship drama. Started dating again and met someone who actually appreciates what I bring to the table. The whole situation taught me a valuable lesson about setting boundaries and not tolerating disrespect. Sarah thought she could have it both ways, cheating on me while keeping me as a financial backup plan. When I removed that safety net, she realized how good she'd had it. Some people called my response harsh, but honestly, I think it was proportional. She made a calculated decision to betray me in the worst possible way. I made a calculated decision to let her live with the consequences of that choice. If you're going to blow up your relationship for a stranger you just met, you better be prepared to handle the fallout yourself. Don't expect the person you betrayed to clean up your mess when reality hits. Sarah learned that lesson the hard way. She wanted independence and excitement, so I gave her exactly that. No safety net, no financial backup, just pure independence. She got what she asked for. Looking back, I'm grateful the whole thing happened. Better to find out who Sarah really was after 2 years than after marriage and kids. She did me a favor by showing her true colors when the stakes were still relatively low. Now I'm with someone who would never dream of cheating on a vacation I paid for. Someone who appreciates the effort I put into our relationship instead of taking it for granted. Sarah can keep working at that boutique and living with her parents while I enjoy actually being valued. The funniest part is that Sarah probably thought her new guy would step up and take care of everything once I was out of the picture. But turns out vacation flings don't usually come with financial support and travel arrangements. Who could have predicted that? She learned the hard way that burning bridges has consequences. You can't treat people like garbage and then expect them to bail you out when your bad decisions catch up to you. I'm just glad I was smart enough not to enable her behavior any longer. That's the real lesson here. Know your worth and don't let people walk all over you just because you care about them. Sarah assumed I'd always be there to bail her out, no matter how badly she treated me. Wrong assumption. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is let them face the natural consequences of their choices. Sarah wanted freedom and excitement, so I gave her exactly that. No strings attached. And honestly, it feels damn good to finally stand up for myself. After what happened with my ex-wife, I swore I'd never let anyone treat me like that again. Sarah proved to me that some people never change, and neither do their patterns. But this time, I wasn't the sucker left holding the bag. I walked away stronger, smarter, and ready for something real. It had been 6 months since Sarah and I went our separate ways in Panama. The sting of betrayal still lingered, but not as a wound. It was more like a scar now, a reminder of what I'd survived and how much stronger it made me. Life without her wasn't just manageable, it was better. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. I threw myself into work, landing a promotion that came with a hefty raise. My boss noticed my renewed focus and drive, attributing it to personal growth. He wasn't wrong. Losing Sarah forced me to reevaluate everything, my priorities, my boundaries, and most importantly, my self-worth. I realized I'd spent too long bending over backward for people who didn't value me the way I deserved. Not anymore. Dating again was refreshing. At first, I was cautious, almost skeptical. Could I trust someone else after everything? But then I met Claire. She was different from anyone I'd dated before, grounded, independent, and refreshingly honest. On our second date, she joked about how she hated guys who expected her to play games or tiptoe around their egos. I'm upfront, she said with a smirk. If I like you, you'll know. If I don't, you'll really know. Her bluntness caught me off guard, and intrigued me. We started seeing each other regularly, and every interaction felt effortless. There were no hidden agendas, no financial power plays, no sense that one of us was carrying the relationship while the other coasted along. It was equal. Balanced. And for once, I didn't feel like I was giving more than I was getting. Meanwhile, life for Sarah seemed to be unraveling further. Mutual friends occasionally filled me in, though I tried not to ask too many questions. Apparently, she'd gone back to working full-time at the boutique but struggled to make ends meet. Her parents weren't exactly thrilled about having their adult daughter move back home, especially after bailing her out of Panama. From what I heard, tensions ran high at family dinners. One night, a mutual acquaintance casually mentioned that Sarah had started dating someone new, a guy she'd met through an online app. He sounded like a stereotypical loser, unemployed, living in his mom's basement, and apparently convinced he was destined for fame as a musician, despite zero evidence to support this. Friends joked that Sarah had traded one bad decision for another. Deep down, I couldn't help but feel sorry for her, not because I wanted her back, but because she seemed stuck repeating the same patterns. But pity wasn't going to change anything. If anything, it reinforced why walking away was the right call. Some people never learn from their mistakes unless they're forced to face the consequences head-on. Sarah needed to figure out her own life before she could build a healthy relationship with anyone else. Until then, she'd keep chasing excitement and validation in all the wrong places. As for me, I found joy in rediscovering who I was outside of a relationship. I traveled solo twice more after China, first to Iceland, then to New Zealand. Both trips were transformative experiences that taught me even more about independence and resilience. Climbing glaciers and hiking volcanoes gave me a perspective I'd never had before. Life is short, unpredictable, and far too precious to waste on toxic relationships. By the end of the year, Claire and I decided to take things to the next level. Neither of us was in a rush to get married or move in together. We agreed those steps should happen naturally, but we talked openly about building a future. Sitting across from her one evening, sipping wine by candlelight, I realized something profound. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of commitment. With Claire, it didn't feel like a gamble or a sacrifice. It felt like a partnership. And that's when it hit me, the difference between Sarah and Claire wasn't just personality or values. It was respect. Claire respected me for who I was, flaws and all. She didn't expect me to carry the weight of the relationship alone or bail her out when things got tough. She challenged me to grow, supported me when I faltered, and celebrated my successes as if they were her own. Looking back, I'm grateful for everything that happened, even the painful parts. Being betrayed by Sarah was devastating, yes, but it also saved me from wasting more years on someone who didn't truly appreciate me. It pushed me to set boundaries, prioritize my well-being, and recognize my worth. Most importantly, it led me to Claire, someone who reminds me daily that love doesn't have to hurt. Life isn't perfect, I doubt it ever will be, but it's good. Really good. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be.